firstly, congrats on He Had It Coming. Oh, by the way, I just want to preface this. I've only watched the first half of the series. So
That's so fine.
if any of my questions twist, just shoot me a look. Like if I'm like, this character seems like a good character, and you're like, oh, just don't. There's no
Okay.
spoiling.
No spoilers. Okay, we'll be like,
And just be like, the interesting question. Let's keep it moving.
Oh,
Um,
good.
well, firstly, congrats on He Had It Coming. How does it feel to be on the precipice of its release, like just a week or two away?
It's equal parts exciting and terrifying. I think because we've been in such isolation for so long, and this has been 7 years in the making, 7 years of development, and then we shot it really quickly. And so, yeah, you always wonder what people are going to think, and it feels like it's been our baby and it's being released.
Oh, for sure. Um, okay, well, speaking of that 7 year kind of, that would have also been, I guess, before COVID too. Like started before COVID, and then
Yeah.
oh, very interesting. So I read that the show originally started as like a horror, but then ended up as a buddy cop whodunit, I believe. Like, how did that genre transition happen, or what period, what point in that 7 year period did it happen, and kind of why?
hmm,
It happened very early on. We wrote I think a scene breakdown for a horror film and then shared it with some people, and the feedback was, if you want to tackle these kind of issues, horror does not feel right, like the right genre. It's very dark and I don't want to watch this film. um, but one of the things that came out of the development was that we spoke to a lot of young women and their experiences on campuses, and they really approached some of the awful things that had happened to them with such humor and camaraderie. And so we thought that potentially comedy was the better way to tell the story. And also for myself and my co-showrunner Craig, we felt like really bad feminists, not knowing a lot of the stuff that was going on for these women. And so we thought, how about we introduce two bad feminists to enter the world with? And that's how Barbara and Elise and the buddy comedy element came together.
Yeah, I guess like what was the kind of what was the entry point into like I guess this idea of like young women on campus and these experiences? Because it's such a specific kind of I guess it's like the things they go through are universal, but there's a specific specificity to like the setting of campus and university and that
Mm.
time in life. Why was that the kind of jump off point for this story?
I think it's an interesting space because when you're at that age, I think you're really first discovering these ideas. You're discovering your feminism. Um, I think sometimes it's some people's first encounters with the patriarchy and injustice. And so I think it really is, everything's just turned up a notch. It's a space of discovery. The stakes are higher. We felt, and the reality is just a lot of these things, it is a hotbed for some really awful things for women. So we felt like it was an interesting space. And also as Chloe said a lot, it's a closed space. So I think it's a really interesting spot for murders to happen. It's kind of this closed environment.
Yeah, it's definitely like its own ecosystem university.
Mm-hmm.
It's its
Yes.
it's its own ecosystem with a lot of like Marxist posters for some reason.
Yes.
Always.
Always.
I think the world makes such a great environment for TV as well because, in TV development and writing and editing, we always talk about the stakes and like making sure that the stakes
Mm.
are there and you want audiences to come back each week and tune in and all that sort of stuff. And I think the idea of a closed ecosystem, it really like dials up the stakes on everything. I think like friendships, like politics, and then you throw murder into the mix and everything's just so heightened and like tangible in every minute. So I think what that does to the show, it keeps the pace and the tension and even the humor just becomes all kind of like thrown into one big melting pot. So it's really fun.
Yeah, definitely watching the series definitely like plays plays and kind of adds that element of like an heightened reality. Like
Hmm.
there are
Yeah.
in the campus compared to the quote unquote real world. That
Yeah.
that kind of set the tone for it. Well, Gretel, I want to ask a question. As a showrunner and writer, what
Yeah.
I find really interesting about this genre is that the individual episodes kind of have to like work on their own, but also it's part of a bigger plot and story, but where like the machinations and the revelations are so vital to like the show. What I guess I know it's a big question, but like, what is it like balancing that, like individual episodes compared to this bigger plot?
That's a great question. Um, this was actually my first murder mystery comedy. And so it was really a learning experience for me. We'd had this pilot for 7 years and then we were thrown into the writer's room. And I think, like, as you say, uh, the hooks was something that took a little massaging to make sure that there was this really strong connective tissue and people wanted to press play again. I think what became a little easier was the characters, overall emotional journeys through the show, because that's something that we pitched a lot and we thought a lot about. But yeah, it was more actually the mechanics of the murder mystery that were the things that I had to learn.
Yeah. I just came off watching years later Mayor of Easttown. And
Yeah.
so this has been like a really amazing 1-2 punch. So I'm gonna finish the rest of the that coming tonight. 'Cause but yeah, it's been really interesting just thinking about that. Like where every episode, especially for this show too, has a kind of like thematic arc or like character arc, but they can't, I guess the arc can't be too big because they still have to keep the story going and have a big, I don't know. I just think it's a
It's it's like, and like we had a tick box in the writers room. It's like progressing friendship between girls, progressing individual arcs, progressing murder mystery, progressing gender riot and what's going on there. There's actually things that you have to tick off and progress enough that it's satisfying.
yeah, like when I was thinking about being in your shoes, I was exhausted thinking about it. And I was just like lying on the couch, just watching screen. So I was like, um,
No, that's why you've got your producers and your streamer, because if you don't nail it the first time, they're always there to be like, hey, you're missing these ingredients. Maybe this is a way that you can, make it better. So that's the relief of show running.
yeah.
It's not in isolation, even though a lot of people think it is.
Well, I guess the next thing I want to touch on is the casting of Lydia and Natasha as both Elise and Barbara. Because their chemistry is just it pops off the screen from episode one, where they
Doesn't
almost
it?
have like an anti-chemistry, they're not getting along, but they still come up. Um,
Love that.
what I guess like what was it like casting them like individually and then together? Like, did you know you kind of had the characters once you saw them together, or even individually, you were like, this will work? And it was just like the cherry on top when they came together.
I think that individually, we were such huge fans of both actresses. Like they were dream scenario for both roles. But of course, with TV, it's rare that you get to do a chemistry test and see them together before the script read. So, you kind of cross your fingers when they turn up. But I think just from the first minute, the dynamic between the two of them, and they hadn't really spoken much either beforehand, um, was electric. They were so funny together. And this is Natasha's first comedy, I think. And the way that she balances Barbara's like biting one-liners and emotional walls with the occasional warmth that she gives Elise, I think is so special. And I mean, I think only a few actresses could have played Elise, because I think she could get annoying in some people's hands, but with Lydia, she just brings such warmth and humor. I think that they're both just made for those characters.
Yeah, they both it's yeah, so funny because they both kind of capture like, like the insecurities and stuff happening that's not being said, like with a lot of their eyes,
Yes,
while still being comedic, which I think is such a fine
yes,
um
Gretel and I were talking earlier that like Lydia's never played a clown. She's been in a lot of comedies, but she's always been the straight person. And when she said that to me, I was like, "What? Like
yeah.
you're a natural clown. How
yeah.
I can never see you as a straight person again." Like she just had that kind of like wide-eyed wonderment that's so perfect for Elise. So yeah, I was really surprised that she was always cast as the straight one previously.
Oh, interesting. Well, if she needs more help with being a clown, I can just help her out. Yeah, so I also want to talk about then about Liv's character of Shepard, and who's also an amazing actor, an amazing get. But I love the fact she's a part of this lineage of like television cops who like have these moral compasses, but they're also conflicted, you know? I guess were there any particular inspiration behind Liv's character in general, or just kind of came from writing
Oh,
together?
in the early days, we actually talked a lot about Silence of the Lambs. And that shot I know it's such a bizarre reference, and the shot in the lift of Jodie Foster with all those men who are so much taller than her. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, so that was kind of the main reference. But yeah, and I think it was also important to us that she taught her partner Roach. I think it was important that we had some positive ally characters in the show. And so I think it was important to us that she taught Roach a little bit about what was happening on campus. And he, as you've seen from watching it, isn't the most actively engaged cop. He's kind of lazy. And then he, through her, is inspired to care a little bit more.
I guess yeah, this is not just an off question, but like what inspired that kind of idea of Roach scraping the cream with the biscuit as opposed to buying plain biscuits? I love
I
that.
love that you noticed that and that you care
I
about that. That's like
know.
Gretel's like dream scene.
Yeah, because it drove me crazy. I was like, just buy like a buy like a whatever, just buy
Arrowroots.
Scotch finger.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Just buy a pack of Scotch fingers.
Do you know what? I think that was a collaboration. I actually think Craig and I came up with that he loved Vovos. And then I think it was Duncan's offer that he didn't like the icing though. I think maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but you're always finding great things when you're on set.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Um, I guess I also want to now touch upon like the location. Um, why was it important to not only film in Western Sydney, which I love the fact that the show was shot in Western Sydney, but also specifically in the former Parramatta Girls' Home?
Yeah, so during pre-production, we were scouting for like a campus-esque location. We looked at universities and other schools and things like that. But we landed on Parramatta Women's Prison as a space because it's actually gorgeous out there. Like it's got a really, really dark, horrible history, and I'll get to that in a second. But as a contemporary space, it's really well kept by the Parramatta Council. The staff are amazing. We were able to move in and take it over, and it acted kind of like a studio backlot. And I think what the location did for us, we as cast and crew were kind of like in the four walls of the prison, which was our campus. And it kind of created the ecosystem that we were trying to mirror in the show. So we were very much like all in it together for the weeks that we were filming. But in terms of its dark history, like Parramatta Women's Prison has an awful history in terms of its treatment of women. In fact, it was closed down because of how horrific it was for the inmates. So we felt that dark spookiness while we were there. But equally, as a group, we felt really inspired and empowered that we were printing a new story on this space. And we thought, like, what better a location to be creating a show like this? Also, I want to shout out that we had a First Nations elder from the area come and do a smoking ceremony before we kicked off. And it was such an amazing experience, like drawing on the place's history from the past, present, and ongoing, and kind of just accepting what's happened there as, as awful as it is, and being kind of empowered and coming together to create new stories on the space. So I totally recommend it for other artists and filmmakers as a space to work in. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's a beautiful location, but it did have a bit of that like it had a haunting vibe to it. I don't know how to put it. Like maybe it's because it's like it's in kind of looks like an old school kind of colonial space. Uh,
Yeah, we were looking for something that showed physically the patriarchy. So
yeah.
I think
Yes.
it did it in that way, like the sandstone and the looming kind of like towers and stuff like that. It felt very oppressive.
Yeah. Well, I guess Chloe, while we're chatting, why was he had it coming like a perfect fit for jungle entertainment?
Oh, it's such a perfect fit. It's one of those dream shows that you're like, yes, this is so meant for us. I'm so glad Gretel came into our lives and pitched this show. I think it does exactly what we love to do. It goes to dark places, but uses humor as a way of elevating conversations and themes that would otherwise be hard to access. And I think Gretel's journey, from going from a horror to a comedy is exactly that. It's illustrative of that aim. I think too, we're just such huge fans of Gretel. Like, sign me up to any Gretel Vella show. She's such a dream person and writer, and I think she's got a huge future ahead of her on what's already come, on top of what's already come. So yeah, it was kind of a no-brainer for us. Like a brilliant person at the center of it, a great script, incredible theme, and really funny.
Yeah, that's great. I'm also on the Gretel train too.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe if I just asked you to respond to that, Gretel, your response.
What's your response to the Gretel Vella train?
You're just like, thank you.
I don't do well with compliments, so I can't imagine. This is like
No, I don't do well either.
dream and nightmare scenario at the same time. I guess I'm just gonna look at my notes 1 second because I want to quote something I read in the press release. That's why I make sure I get the quote right. Gretel, you said the story doesn't tell you what your political voice should be, but it does say that it's important to care. And I feel like that's such a poignant message now in 2025, going on in 2026. We're living in such politically charged climates and times. Um, I guess I know it's such a broad question, but why do you feel like it's vital to tell this story now?
I think it's I think it's what you just said. I think there's just so much to be engaged with at the moment. It feels like we can't be passive. We have to to talk about how we're feeling. Yes, and I would like to reiterate that the show is not prescriptive on that. I think it just, particularly in regards to feminism, it's about two young women, connecting with their own voices and going on independent feminist journeys. And I hope at least it inspires young women, everywhere to do the same.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I love the messaging behind this show. Like that idea of care that feels like sometimes right now the more messages just yelling messages as opposed to caring about each other. So I really love that. Yeah. Uh, Congratulations on the show. So yeah, we this was a really quick 20 minutes. We really
It was.
like it. Yeah, congratulations on the show. And yeah, as a last kind of what's it called? Like what's it benign note. When Elise's character was eating like the cake mix in episode 1 after she got wasted, I was like, in my mind, I was like, is that good? Like, should I try that? As I took note of that as I was watching.
I hope no one takes that away from the show because I think you get sick.
Yeah,
I would not. Maybe the icing.
yeah, maybe just the icing. Yeah, as opposed to all the really important parts and themes of the show. I also made to like write that down and circle it like cake mix. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. We were proud of that joke. So
Yeah,
I'm glad you know this.
yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, congrats on the show and thank you for taking the time to chat, both of you.